Hi, you guys. It's Acrylic Painting Monday with Ginger Cook, and we're going to be featuring another one of the paintings from an American artist named Hassam as part of our artists from the past month. We're doing a lot of art that has come before because we can learn so much from it. You'll remember that a couple weeks ago we did a Hassam. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the differences and how artists, even of a certain generation, they were experimenting with their art, and they kind of fed off each other. So you'll see a lot of similarities between some of the artists that lived at that time period, and then as they try exploring new things and found their footing. And the way you expand as an artist is to try new things. So maybe this isn't your style of painting, but follow along, see what you can pick up that might help your artwork as you paint.
Let's scoot on down to the table, my queenness.
Okay, so we had to do this one pretty big. Normally we don't do this anything for this big for YouTube, but what is this, like a...
That's like 11 by 14.
11 by 14, and we did it that large because I wanted to have this sort of palette knife feel to this.
Well, and also we needed that large because that's how it proportioned, and I just could not find a way to crop it to make sense.
To make smaller. So you've got these beautiful orange flowers up here. You've got this sort of gray-blue sky. You've got the field. Now, if you remember, the other Hassam we did a couple of weeks ago on YouTube, again, part of our... we've done several in the Academy, too, was this one with the gal reading the book and the flowers. And I see a similarity between these flowers and these, the way the colors and so forth. And I sort of see a similarity in some of the colors he used, these greens and these blues. So his color palette was very similar, but the style is slightly different. So we're going to be playing with that a little bit. And of course, last week we did a frisk painting, and you'll notice that this style is different than the vase. So it's okay to try different things. Just let go. Let's be free. Yes?
Here we go again. That was last week.
Yeah, but I think we could let go more, right? Let go.
Let go.
Free. Ooh. There, right? Maybe you should do those series of exercises. Have you already lost us?
Already lost what?
We still have film here?
Yeah, we still have film. Wait, okay. Film. Remember film when we used to have film and you had to go to the drugstore to get it developed?
So we're not going to trace anything, but we're going to come down about, say, 3 fingers and about halfway here. And I want to just do something like this. This is all going to be sky up here. And this is going to be a field, all right? So that's what you get, okay? Now, because this is light gray, it's going to be 98% white and something else. Yes? So you're not going to start with the blue, you're going to start with the white. We're going to use quite a bit of paint on this. And we're going to use Salvador paint. It just happened to still have some, so I feel like I'm going to use it. Could have used anything at this point for something heavy with a palette knife. But I feel like the Salvador paint is a good choice.
I think it's an excellent choice.
And I'm going to get out a paper plate because I want to mix some of this paint on my plate because I need it kind of flat. I've got a few little colors here. We're going to take all this white. All right, and I said we're going to start with white. I want a little bit of, say, a light blue color. Okay, that's pretty good. Scrape and squish, right? Scrape and squish. I don't think I have enough blue. Now, the white paint actually is Matisse, and I want a little bit of the brown in there.
The white paint is really golden.
Sorry, golden. Sorry, golden. Put a little bit of the brown in there to kind of push this so it's not too bright. What we call pushing back or graying. We talked about that last week, what it means to gray a canvas.
Well, graying the paint.
You know, graying the paint. Yeah, there you go. Well, it's hard to, as you know, most people cannot talk and paint and think. I mean,
hey, I think you're doing great.
Well, you're interrupting a lot, so stop.
Oh, okay. I'll just sit here quietly.
Just stop.
I won't say
I'm on a train of thought here, man. You can, after I'm finished, you can then pay. By the way,
then it's past the point. They're going to say, no, what's he referring to?
All right, fine. All right, so I've got all this. I'm going to come down here like this with the paint and just scrape this down. Okay, and I've got it over this light blue, kind of any kind of light blue, kind of turquoisey green background would be fine. I'm going to come down here like this, scrape it down, kind of hold it flat. Here's my knife. This is the sort of that Bob Ross style palette knife. I bought this one at Jerry's, but they apparently Bob Ross found it from the Alexander guy he was taking originally course from, and then coming on up here like this. So that's the color that I want. It's kind of white, but it isn't, all right? It is pretty light. Now, that's one way that we put this on. Now, the other thing we can do is take another palette knife. You think we can be tricky. Here's one with a little bit of a rounded edge, and we can just, you know, maybe put some, like a little spin on it, okay? Now we've got it on there the way we want it. Just kind of twirl it around a bit like that. That's nice, yeah? And that's really all we have to do with that. Except maybe cover this corner, okay? That's it. I can put a little more on if I wanted to, but I don't really need any more. I'm trying to kind of just cover this like that, like butter on toast. Now, here's a little bit of this kind of medium blue color. While this is still wet, I'm going to just tap this up into here like that. You see what I'm doing? Just tap that up there. The more I tap it, the more it'll disappear. And I might do a little bit of that, like that. So this is when you can kind of paint wet on wet, okay? Let's come on up a little bit further. Let's come on up into this sky area right here with some of this lighter blue. I think I don't have any more of that color out. Here's the lightest blue they've got. I want to just show you some just ways you can do stuff. You gotta have fun with this, you guys. While I'm doing this, I want to tell you that because we're doing a premiere, which is not a live show, even though John and I will hopefully have enough internet to be able to join you in this, in our premiere. Let's see, I'll put a little more white with that. Okay, so I'm going to just come up here like that and suggest that there's...
We should be down in the chat area with our moderators, which we'd like to thank for joining us this evening. And you know who you are. Yeah,
you do, right? So, we know that we're going to come up here just a little bit with some bushes. That's just a little bit of brown. Just tap it in there. Just to sort of, this is what I would call some ghost weeds. They're here, but they're not. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Here, kind of edge the knife a little bit. You can do something like this. You put the knife out like this, flatten this out, and then scrape it up on the edge, right? Okay, here's our little ghost weeds. I think we'll bring it. Now, you only get so much, but you just want it on the edge here, right? Now, we're gonna dry this before we get too much further, but you've got a lot of leeway as far as it's a little green coming up here like that, and a little bit of this kind of yellow oxide color. Again, I'm just gonna say these are some of our first ghost weeds that we're gonna put here. I might just turn the knife this way, put some up like this. Have some go in the other direction. So that's pretty easy, yeah. I think you will feel very comfortable doing that, I think, in a little bit. It takes a while to practice, but sometimes it's easier to do this on a large canvas than on a smaller one. Just a few more little weeds. Okay, so the next coat of paint I want to do is I want to make this kind of a dark green. I'm going to take a large brush, and Salvador makes a very nice dark green. I'll put some brown with it, and I'm going to go ahead and just paint the rest of this brown, and then I'm going to give it a good dry. We want to start off with some very dark green, so maybe their darkest green that they've got, which is the soap green. I think they meant to call it sap green. Somehow they're calling it soap. It's just better. A little bit of the burnt umber sap green. We're going to start. We want that color. It doesn't have to be the same. Just kind of mix it up there. We want that dark green underpainting color. Okay. And as I come up here with this angle brush, I'll do a few little ghost marks like this too. So you would think that because the painting's larger, it would take longer, but it's actually going to take less time because we're doing this very large and we can do this quickly. So a lot of you have things to do, you think, I don't know if I have time to watch a 10-hour video on how to do something. You can really learn a lot by watching the longer videos, but sometimes it's fun to just paint and go. Yes? So again, we're just suggesting some different colors. Now, a painting that we have in our academy that kind of reminds me of that is Renoir's got a gal reading in the bushes with a umbrella, and she's got that's very similar in the way that the graphs and everything is. So it's interesting, isn't it? So let's see how close I got to just the
looks like you're right on the money.
Right on the money, right? So again, I think sometimes you just get intimidated, and if you just don't be. Let it go. Yes, let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Don't be intimidated.
Push it away.
And then when we do not be intimidated. I know that sounds easier said than done, but okay. I want to dry that. Now what happens is at the very bottom, he put a little dirt down here. There's some brown down here. So what I want to do now is dry this green part. That part's going to stay okay. I don't have to dry it. Dry this green part, and then we'll keep going. Okay?
Okay. Let's do it.
All right, so now that that's dry enough, I'm going to add, what happened to that brush? Didn't get cleaned very well. Put it back. Let's take some white and burnt sienna and a little bit of brown and come up here, a little bit more white. There we go. A little yellow oxide. Grab a little of that color, which we don't have anymore out. That's all right. Palette knife uses a lot more paint. That's all right. We own paint. We can do it. And here we go. So we're going to say that some of this, there's not enough white in this. So I'm not happy with that. And I don't think I can make that light enough, that mixture. All right. So what I have to do is scrape that off. And don't keep going with the wrong color. Okay. Just, stop. I'm going to scrape that off. Okay. Now, try that again with more white on the brush, and I should be fine. There we go. That's kind of the color I want. Put a little black with it. There we go. Try to gray that out. Kind of the sand color. And it's not, I don't want it necessarily even, but on the bottom edge of this, that's what was there. Here you go. Here's some lighter color here. This was that's my sand base, bottom of this. So you've got to allow for a frame, okay? So maybe I'll take this up just a little bit higher than he did. Okay, let's see, there's my sand base. All right, so very nice, yes and yes. So let's dry that. That's as easy as it gets. When you do dry, this is when you dry. Okay, so we're going to start by finding the colors underneath the colors underneath the colors. And you can see from this that we want basically the grass to curve up this way. Some of it's going to curve back around like this. Look at the direction of this. And let's see what we can do. I can take some lighter colors, kind of a light, kind of a grade green here. How do you grade green? You add a little bit of orange or something in it, a little bit of its complementary color, so you tone it down. The brighter the color is, the closer it is to you. So let's try this color and see how we did. That's pretty good. Notice I'm just using the edge of my knife. Probably get about 3, maybe 4 bits, and then you got to get more paint. Okay, back the background. And let's just do that again. Add a little bit of that kind of peach color to it, kind of gray this green. And I want to just make sure that I've got all the right colors. I'm going to zoom in on my picture. And these are some good colors. This is a good color to have. I want it a little bit, he's got it a little bit bluer. So let's try some of the blue color. Try some of this blue color here. And let's try that. Put a little white with it, a little bit more blue. Kind of a blue-green color. I think I'm out of all my colors. Now, this is what happens. If you get out of all your colors, you're pretty much stuck into what you can paint. So you make sure you have enough paint out to do this. Okay. I want this even bluer than that. Okay, a little bit more white. Let's find our plate again. Where'd that plate go? I don't want that one. Let's do this plate. Let's do a new plate. Okay, so I can really see my color here. All right, so that's a nice color, and I want that somewhere, but it's not quite the one I'm looking for yet. I'll put it here, and I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, a little bit of this brown. I think I'm going to move my canvas so I can set this down so you can see it. I'm flattening out the paint. See that? I'm going to flatten everything out. Squish and flat. It's too brown. We need some blue. Okay. There we go. That's kind of nice. I'm not going to do too much more with that, but that's what I'm looking for. It's just a very interesting grade, blued. Okay. Just on the edge, you guys. And I want to get this up here more. If you get it too flat, now look here. Do you see how this got real flat? You don't want that. So we're gonna have to go over that. So I'm gonna have to tip my canvas toward me because I need just the edge of this blade. I need it just on the edge. If you get too much paint, this doesn't work. So what do you do with this? Well, take the dark paint. You can go through it a little bit. Let's get more of our dark color out. So I'm just going to paint this and I'll let you follow along. I'm not going to talk a lot now. John can talk to you if he wants.
Oh, no. I was shut down.
Well, you better talk to him because I'm not saying another word, man.
Ooh,
focusing on
show.
that, man. That's that kind of show, man. I'm just focusing on this. Where did that dark color go?
You have one by your right arm.
That one.
Which is really your left, but I know if I said right, you know which one I'm talking about.
Okay, so here we go. There, it's got this dark color. And I need to go up and through here like that. And there we go. You can scrape too, by the way. But the trick is that at some point we're going to have to dry. And we may even come back and use a brush. But you see, but if you tip the canvas at different angles, okay, let's put a little red in that green to darken it up even more. If you tip the canvas at different angles, you could turn it like this. But you want to have these grasses thin. Yes and yes?
You want them thin and not in a pattern.
Yeah.
Random.
A little more random, like that. I lied about not talking to you, but it felt good. It scared you for a minute, didn't it? Not talking anymore. What happened? All right, now you see this palette knife, for whatever reason, is making too fat. So I've got too much paint on it. It's making too fat a mark. So we're going to change knives. So let's try this one. This has got a very good edge on it. And let's try this one. Let's see what I can get here. Let me just turn it down, because if you're right or left-handed, it's going to depend on how you do this. We don't really address that, but it's true. So let's try this. There we go. Because you really just want the paint on the edge, and if you hold it, if you don't hold, it's not quite straight up and down, but it is. It's directional. It's definitely directional. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that I've got my color stuff in here where I want it. Okay. But look at these beautiful patterns we're getting. And you try to do this on something smaller. It's extremely difficult. All right, Goldilocks doesn't like that palette knife. Let's try a different one.
Why don't you just clean the one you like?
Well, there's that one, but I want to try some other ones. Not everybody has the same palette knife, John.
That's true. That's true.
So
good point.
Let's take some paint out here. And like I say, it uses quite a bit. We're not using any medium with it. We're just using paint. You know, white paint's pretty cheap. There we go. Here's some blue. Okay, I want it grayed, so let's put a little magenta in that blue. That's pretty. Okay, let's try that. Now, if I've been mixing, one of the things you can do is just clean your palette knife if you've been mixing with it. If you're trying to paint with it. So there. Now, again, I have to flip my colors around. I want it more gray on this side. I'm coming up into here. And I know I want some gray up in here. Like that. Kind of a blue gray color. Whoop, there went the paint. Huh. Well, all right. I hope I don't need any more of that.
Yeah, some tells me you're going to.
Well, it just tipped right off. With a big canvas like this, I have to move the canvas away from me. Tipped right off the edge of the table. Peace. Zen.
Push it away.
Yeah, sorry. So we're going to start back with some more green up in this area and cross over. And John's going to go rescue the paint.
Well, some tells me we're not going to have a show unless I get the paint.
Oh, now look at that. Look at what happened there. Look at all that paint. Wow. See how that, if you don't get the right on the knife, I was looking at John. Here.
You're looking at me.
I don't know, but I was looking at you. I'm going to blame you. I think if I was looking at John, it wasn't my fault. I never did it. If I had been looking at you, this never would have happened.
I guess I need adult supervision down here.
Yeah, so here we go. Here we go. Remember, we want some going toward the other way. Okay, so again, you've got to have it flat on your knife and just on the edge. If you have it all over the bottom of the knife, you do not have what you want. So if this is kind of messing up for you, that could be why, okay? So because we're doing so much layering, and there's just so much layering in this, maybe you can put it here. Let's just stick it up here so we can just find it on top of that. There we go. Thanks, John. Because we're doing, where'd that dark one go? Did you ever find that dark one? Is there a dark one floating around? Oh, here it is. Here. Yeah, I've got it. All right, so again, I want to flatten out my paint, which is like, there you go, flatten it out, put it just on the edge. I want some dark coming through here. All right, and then I have to take a minute and dry everything. And I mean, really dry it. You can get so far with this, and then you're going to need to dry it. Now, if you were using gels with this, I would caution you only in the sense that when you go to paint the next thing, it may make a ridge where it's hard to cross over the other one. So I wouldn't dry, you could skin them over, but I wouldn't dry them too much because, again, here's our, just on the edge here. That's all I want, just on the edge of this, right? Because I've got in this section up here, I've got more of the lime greens, or the kind of the olive greens. Maybe not lime is not the right word. Probably more the olive greens up in here. There's definitely painting pattern here with this. And I've changed colors again on you. And okay, let's get some paint out. And the thing with this, because everything's staying wet, again, I'm going to flatten everything. And I don't want to mix it too well. Okay, so I want to say that I've got some paint coming this way, but you want that, you don't want to lose all that dark underneath, that dark color. And we know we've got some, at the point where it's, you're having trouble, start off the edge in a few places, getting your pattern. I guess we will take a minute and dry it, but I wanted to make sure we had some of this green color up here, just barely touching it. See? Let's try it. Hey, you guys, I've got two paintings here of a river, but you know what happens when you put them in order? They become a diptych. Diptych comes from a Latin and Greek word meaning two images that you put together. You know, it's been around for a long time. Triptych is maybe three. What's neat about a painting like this is that you can put them on the wall, separate them, and yet it's still one continuous piece of artwork. But each picture stands on its own. That's the trick. This one stands on its own as a painting. This stands on its own as a painting. But when you put them together, they really they become one big, neat painting. And this is part of our Wave and Water Masterclass, but that's not why I'm telling you about it. Someone will actually be able to have a chance to win this diptych along with their choice of this diptych. And let me show you the other paintings we're talking about. If you have been contributing to our Karen Little Scholarship Fund. So someone says, who's Karen Little? Karen Little was John's wife. She passed away about 10 years ago. They were married 40 years, very happily married. And she was a very generous person, did a lot of knitting and crocheting. And wherever she went, she was constantly giving people things. And, oh, that's so pretty. She'd give them a scarf. She just personified generosity and kindness. We want to do that. Our academy does that too. We thank you guys for the years of supporting us and for helping some of our students, continue in the academy longer. And so you guys, if you've been doing and contributing to us at those 3 spots I mentioned, thank you very much. And we hope you all have a chance to be entered in a drawing to win one of these original Ginger Cook paintings. It's our thank you to you. Here's a little Venice painting. We want to give people a choice. Every quarter from, I think it was, what did you say, December?
This one started in December, and this is through February. Through
February 28th, if you've donated at least $100 to our Academy of Fine Art and Acrylic Painting with gingercook.com. All the information is on down below. If you want to see, we've got 3 ways where you can do that. You have an opportunity to have your name in a fishbowl for every $100 donation for a chance to win these paintings. There's a lighthouse painting or Wave and Water Masterclass. There's another Wave and Water Masterclass with the rocks and the sailboats. And I think this would be cool if you just did like a little rope frame around it. But in any event, that we will pick 3 winners, and the first person will have their choice of all of these. And the second person will then get to pick, and the third person will have whatever those last 2 are. I don't know what those would be. But anyway, it's our way of thanking you for contributing to our scholarship fund this quarter. And happy painting. And thank you guys from the bottom of our heart. Thank you so much. All right, I don't know if that's completely dry. It's probably skinned over. So now I'm going to take a dagger brush, and I'm going to do a few of these little background details before we start with our flowers. And you can see from in here, like we've got a big flower right here, but we see we've got a little bit of these colors here. So I can take this little bit of an angle brush like this and do just what I did with the palette knife. But I'm just I'm giving it a little bit. Maybe I can curve some of the grasses. So I'm going to just have some curving a little bit. See? So this is interesting to know how to do, because you're talking about maybe a flower that's coming up like that with the stem. here, and you've got these big ones. And then we've got these some lighter colors in here. And we've got some lighter grasses coming up this way. And you give the impression that it was all done with the palette knife when you do it like this. Remember I said we need a little bit of white in that light blue color.
You're fooling the viewer.
Kind of, I guess that's what you're doing, John. You're fooling the viewer. And we're saying that a lot of this brush strokes came up like this, and there were some going this way. So you're varying the brush strokes. You're allowing for a lot of the grasses to kind of, even more white here, come up this way. Let's see, I want more white on my brush than I've got. There we go. It's kind of a light. Nope, that's not going to do it. So, all right, what happens is when you run out of paint, put more out, because it's very hard to mix colors if you don't have them out. So what happens to me is when I really focus on a painting, I totally get into it. And it gives me 100% focus. And if you're having problems in your life, regardless of what they are, maybe it's just a bill you want to pay and you just don't have the funds for it, or, maybe somebody stole your bicycle, paint. Because you're going to at least get 2 hours of relief. Of 2 hours of relief of whatever long it takes you, you won't be thinking about anything else. And that is worth a lot. Now, nobody stole my bicycle, so we're all okay. But I'm just saying that, but this is what painting causes me to focus. It causes John to focus when he's filming, yes? We just, we do a lot of this. There's a lot of focusing that can happen when you're painting. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do that. Okay, so let's get change more into the greens. Ooh, now we've got some stuff going this way. We've got some of this, let's see, what are we missing? Missing this color. All right, so I know I keep seeing the color patterns coming down here, but I know I've got some grasses coming down over our walkway. And then we've got some of this color coming up here like this, coming up through the path of the all this sand. This is obviously somewhere where they had a lot of sand and beach kind of area. Using just, if you get too much paint on the brush, which is easy to do, the big glob of paint like this will not serve you. Reshape your brush, grab more paint. It's easy, that's easy, yes. Reshape it, grab more paint. Take a moment. If you're doing into yellows and you want to go back over this with light blues, I want some light blues here. I can gray it with a little bit of purple. Okay, a little bit of purple or a little bit of magenta will gray my blue. Give me a very nice kind of blue-gray color. That's pretty. See where we're going with that? But watch your brush direction. If you didn't have this knife or you didn't have this brush, what could you do? Could you do something? Could you do something else? Sure. And the question is, the main thing for this, the main thing is your brush direction and your colors. So, for instance, and you've got a cheat sheet here. You know that, for instance, he's going to want a few little darker. There's few little darker bushes going up here like this, and some of that's dry, so I should be okay. But I don't have any more of that dark green paint out. I don't want that. Where'd that deep stuff go? I could just patent that deep color. Here it is. That's soap green. That's our darkest green in this. That's soap green. You could add a little magenta to it if you wanted it slightly darker. But we know we've got some. This is where overlapping it helps. So now we're putting in almost, this is almost like little little things that grow in grass, you know, little buds of things. Just putting in a few little dots like that. This can be really fun, you guys, really fun. And I hope that if you watch, if you're reading some of the live chat, and hopefully John and I have made the live chat, you know, notice that my typing isn't very good. So I apologize immediately, but what we have to, you know, we're answering questions. Some people have written in ahead of time and asked us some questions. What are some of those, John? So that we could do it for the show.
Let me dig up a couple and see what's come in lately.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want a straight line here down here. You want this to be sort of, the grasses to be a little bit separate here. And use the back of this brush too, and you can, you know, indicate something grew just by doing that. And this does not have to be really complicated. I guess that's the main thing. That's the main thing I want to stress is it does not have to be complicated. But at some point, if you don't dry, what's going to happen is you're going to lose all the color.
And start getting muddy.
Yeah, because it's just going to start making, there's only so long you can do this, right? Or if you just, and then you just can't anymore. Okay, so let's take a minute.
What did an oil painter have to do? They just have to wait until it dried?
Yeah, they had 2 or 3 paintings going at once, and they'd wait till it dried.
Oh, that just drive me nuts. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's what they did. Just kind of wait till it dried. I know one thing I can do up here. This is sort of fun. It's just kind of do an off-white. Some little flowers up in here like this. There's some little ones that he's got going. I can tap those in because I know they're going here like this. You find a little question?
Question comes up quite often about the zinc white. How and why do I want to use zinc white? What is zinc white for?
Zinc white is your transparent white, and you want to have some on hand. It's really good. It's like it's because it's you can see through it, like say wax paper. You can use it for clouds and for pushing a painting into the distance. You can cover up, and if you add, a lot of people use it as their primary white because it doesn't change the white very much. It'll lighten a color without changing it dramatically. So a lot of times you'll see that too. Somebody's done that.
So it's used probably a lot in the atmospheric perspective.
Atmospheric, so very, very handy in landscapes. Absolutely. So I'm going to take a moment, John, and just and it's also mixing white is also the similar.
Isn't that the Liquitex name?
Liquitex, and then another company calls it mixing white too. Yep, all right, you guys ready for the next layer of dry?
Yep. Hello, and welcome to the Academy of Fine Art and Acrylic Painting. It can be found at acrylicpaintingwithgingercook.com. Are you ready to take your acrylic painting to the next level? Are you tired of all the chit-chat that Ginger and John do during their live YouTube shows? Well, this is the place to come to. You can start off at the very level of just signing up as a pink member for $14.95 a week, and you'll have access to all of the red membership and below lessons. Those lessons include a lot. We have a lot of lessons, anywhere from 1 cookie all the way up to a full box of cookie. We use the cookies as a term of representing the difficulty or the challenge, as the case may be. You can have access to our latest tutorials. Again, at $14.95 for a week trial. You can do this as often as you want. Here are 12 pages of lessons, and there is 2, 4, There are 24 on the page. You have over 300 lessons right here. And included with the lessons, you'll have all the reference materials you need, the traceables, the originals if available, and if we can share them. You have everything you need to get started. When you're ready to step up your membership and you want to take advantage of the personal art coaching, those are available at the red, blue, and purple membership levels. You can upgrade at any time. You can come back. You can downgrade at any time. What you want to be able to do, though, is improve your art, and we highly recommend giving us a try. Try us for a week. Look around, kick the tires, as they say, and see if we can't help you become a better artist.
For instance, John, if I thought that this white, right, this blue was a little dark right there. For instance, I could take some zinc white or mixing white and soft brush, put a little on the brush, and then kind of spread it out like this so that you don't have a glob. And maybe I just might come up here like that. Just take a little of this color and just push that back a little bit. You see how it kind of fades that blue in the background? I mean, it's still there, but that's kind of what it's for. It's if you want to fade something in the background. Look what would happen if I did these plants right here. As I've dried them, you see how I faded those in the background? Just kind of push them back a little bit through a haze almost. It gives like this really cool little haze to it. So I hope that's helpful. Now, the flowers in this are
pretty.
Well, they're also kind of they stay to the right of the middle. If you look at the example, they're pretty much there's a big one. There's a big one right. I'm just going to use a Posca pen to show you. There's a big one right, kind of down about there. There's a nice big one right here. I can't use a Posca pen. Let's see, what can I show you? Oh, I'm just going to use a brush. I cannot use a Posca pen. Too much texture on here. So let's. All right, so I'm going to just take some. There's a beautiful color in here. It's called carmine, which is a great flower color for this picture. And carmine, and then there's another. Let's see, what is this one? Not Naples yellow. It's priority red. That's kind of an interesting one. It's a little bit oranger than I want. So then let's see, what's this one? This is a violet color. That's kind of pretty, kind of a dark, almost maroon color. It's good to have your reds out. This one is primary magenta. We talked about that, right? And then what's this one? Naples yellow, red, too light. Well, we're going to go with these. All right, so I know I've got a red flower right up here, and it's like a half of an orange. I'm kind of coming up like that. So we're going to just sort of use the back of this brush right here and just kind of put that in right now. And then I have two next to it. These two are like the twin flowers. One starts right about here, a little bit lower. Same kind of fun shape, and not as big as the first one. Let's put a little orange with that. And then, well, no, a little bit more red. So there's this one, and then here's the one next to it. Right like that.
So you're using your dagger brush upside down?
Yeah, just using a dagger brush to do it. And then I've got two here. They're twins also. Can you put my fan on, please? They're also here like this.
Should be on.
It's not.
It's impossible.
And it's this one's going this way. So it's not one flower, it's two. Okay? And then there's a third one that comes underneath it like this. There's a third one that's coming right here, and they touch. So you've got to think about the placement. Flowers are rarely put like stars on a flag somewhere. There's another smaller one, and they vary in size. And Here's a little one here. And I want a little bit more of an orange one up here. Just a little closer to this one. I'm going to move this one up a little bit. Okay. And then I've got a couple down here. They're all clustered pretty close together. All right. These are close together. And then there's a suggestion of a couple others that are here. I think I've got one right here. I'm going to just put one right there. So those are where our flowers are. But this one up here, the top one, is actually closer to the top of the sky, and it's bigger. So I'm going to come up here like that. This is my biggest flower. All right. And I've got another nice big one up here. These are big right here, and this one. Those are pretty big. And you start with the darkest color. All right. And some of the leaves are coming down this way. Petals, right? Like that. This is a good brush to do that with. And then I'm going to add some yellow and the orange color to my red. Okay, and a little white. I'm going to mix all these barely together. And I'm going to just top that on the inside like this, on that one. A little white on the brush. Well, this is still wet, barely touching this. And then here's a lot like something going down like that. But that's the trick to this, is that we're gooping this on just like we were doing a palette knife. Okay? But we're adding these different colors. It's almost this, well, it's kind of a wet on wet trick. Some of this would just need a little white to go right on top of the wet red. I want a little bit of white and orange with this one. Okay, the light's coming from the top. So the top of these flowers are, here's the highlights. Here's the top like that. So I know this is two separate flowers because of the dark underneath. I know that there's a little separate flower there. Same thing with these. You're thinking this was tricky. And I'm saying, just careful when you start globbing the paint. Just get it on the tip of the brushes and barely touch it. Just drop it. You have to give a second coat of red. Sometimes that helps. These are kind of like that. Want some darker red underneath. So if I can take even a little bit of that maroon color, maroon red. I don't want any blue on there though. There, okay, here we go, like that. Because it's darker underneath my flowers. This is where it's the darkest. Okay. And again, a couple of these are pretty light. This one right here is supposed to be really light like that. You barely even see this one. There's some highlights on that. And then this one, you notice I'm barely touching this. I'll just, let me skim this over and I'll show you why. Because I want to put a little tiny bit of white and I don't want it to sink into the other colors. Okay, all right, so now reshape my brush, and I've got a little tiny bit of this white that's just, I can add these little white highlights. And I tell you, this would be very hard to do little.
But next to impossible.
To get this effect. The answer is yes. You could use gels. You just have to let it skin over a little longer, yes?
That's another question that comes up. I've heard you use the term modeling paste, gel, heavy gloss gel, all kinds of different things, mediums. How do I know which one I want to use?
The probably if I was just going to buy one medium, I'd buy heavy gloss medium. And then the next one I would buy would be modeling paste, and that would pretty much do it for you.
And what's the difference between those two?
Modeling paste is like kind of thick plaster. It just is, you can't see through it. Gels, you can, that they have the word. If you look at, go on the websites and read what the gels do. Don't take my word for it. Take a minute. You spend a lot of money on them. They're expensive. A jar of gel can cost, $20-$30, right?
It lasts a lifetime, though.
Well, they last a long time, but if you're going to invest in the money, then I would think you would owe it to yourself to understand what you're buying.
And we use
and not take the weight. You know what I mean? Whatever I tell you now, you're not going to probably remember tomorrow anyway. So I would say go to the website, take notes of what they said their product was. I would buy Golden as opposed to Liquitex because over the years I've found that the Golden jars, I've had some for 10 years and the seal is so good, they still stay. Now, not that the others don't, but I'm just saying that I've had that kind of success.
With the Golden paints.
Yeah, so I just notice I'm doing another coat of red on these. So the darker red on the bottom. Okay? So, all these reds. Let's do a little of this color here. Just a touch of the orange. Just not too much, just a bit of color surprise, a couple places. Now, the next group of colors that are on here are our yellows. And this is a primary yellow from Golden. And of course, you've seen our yellow oxide. And you know what I tell you about that. Yes, you start with your darker colors first. But I'm not ready to put my yellow flowers in quite yet, just a couple. There's a few yellow ones in here. They're kind of sideways like this. You just kind of do them sideways like that. There's a few that are in here that we have to bury. Let's put a little white with that yellow oxide. A little bit of that yellow color. Okay, like that. There's, like I say, there's a couple of these that are buried in other bits of grass. Okay, and then again, you start with your darkest color first, maybe even a little bit of this orange color here like that. This is sort of nice. This is, oh, that's almost a marigold color. Some darker ones here. Some darker ones under here like that. And we're going to keep going with our hair dryer to dry this, you guys, because all right, so remember the flowers get smaller as they go up. So they're climbing up the hillside. All right, so I want to dry these flowers so that I can overlap them with lighter paint, okay? You guys, because we're studying the artwork of some of our artists from the past and the American artist child Hassam, I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. Now, I would encourage you to go to Wikipedia. There's like 8-10 pages about this young man. But to me, what stood out was that as an artist, as a child, he had some talent, but he went into business with his father, and his uncle offered to send him to Harvard. Can you imagine? He decided he'd rather just work. But he became so good at drawing and sketching on his own that he actually started to illustrate children's books. He became what they call black and white man. He learned engraving, where they just so he learned that, and it's kind of this career he had. And then later on, he decided to do more paintings, and his friend advised him to go. One of his friends said he needed more education. He just didn't say, "Oh, he's talented. He should just figure this out." So they took a tour of a lot of different countries in Europe, France, Italy, Spain, studied under the, looked at all the museums, looked at the masters, which is what we're doing now, spent time with watercolors because that travels easily, learned as much as he can, later went back and went to art school, took figure drawing, did all, he just didn't say, well, I'm talented, I'll figure it out. I think this is really important because if you're not learning, you're not getting forward. And so when we look at his prolific over 3,000 paintings he did, over 3,000. There's so many different styles, and that you can see what we're featuring. We've got some in the Academy of Fine Art and Acrylic Painting. We've got a few on YouTube. And I encourage you to look at the work of the guys that have come before, because they will help you a lot in learning how to perfect your art skills. And so, Child Hassam, Childe, like you'd think it would be Childy, but it's Child. Everybody called him Child. They didn't call him Hassam. Look up his full biography. It's like 8 pages. Okay? And really take a moment to see it, because I think you're going to be surprised at an artist's journey, and it might be encouraging to you too. All right, so what I need now is this sort of light blue color, kind of gray a little bit, this lighter kind of gray blue color. So we'll put a little bit of red is, orange is opposite blue on the color wheel. So put a bit of that color in there and gray this, and then add more white. Okay. Now right in here, I've got a whole group of brush strokes that are going this way. Put a few up there now, like this.
Doing a quick read on Golden's website about the paste and the gels. The gels are more versatile as far as what they can do. They can be used even as a glue, which we've done to do the 6x8 mounting into foam core. And the modeling pastes are designed primarily for your impasto or your very thick, very, I guess, oil painting like. But they are opaque. When it dries, it's opaque.
But you can still add color to them.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You definitely want to add color to it. Absolutely. Or you'd be covering up your painting. And that's no good. But they make different pastes. They make an extra heavy body, a coarse modeling, and then a light modeling paste. So they have a medium for every need. And they say they make so many of them because artists request different ones, and they listen to the artists, and they make what the artist asks for. That's one thing that company does do. They give you all the information you need and really help you be a successful artist.
They do. Notice I'm going in here with some of the darker color now. I keep losing that green.
That soap green?
That soap green. I don't know why I keep losing that soap green.
Need to put it on a keychain.
Yeah. There we go. Now, I want some of these darker greens tucked in here. And again, we want some of these darker, like I say, these greens coming off the bottom here. Maybe we want something like this. It's all kind of blue here coming off the bottom. Not that blue, so let's just flatten that out. Over on this side, let's take some of this dark green here like that. I want something coming off kind of willy-nilly off the bottom, with these all sweeping up like that.
Willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly, yeah. We don't know who Willie is, but he's Nilly.
Willy-nilly.
Okay, here's some darker color here coming through this. I got that a little bit too blue. I'm going to tone that down. And here's some of this darker green coming this way. And then you can take a palette knife and scrape too. So it's all right, depending on how wet it is. You can do a little scraping, which is interesting too. It's an interesting effect. I don't want this, again, I don't want this much dark, the light blue here, so I'm going to put a little bit of this dark color over it before I go too much further. Yeah, there you go. And I want to make sure that we have the bottom of this the way we want it. There's some light color. So somebody asked when you would use flow paint. Could you use flow paint for some of this? Well, you could, right? A little bit lighter right here in this one section. You could use flow because you've already got a lot of texture on here. So if you wanted to use, say, a flow paint, and here would be this. Here's some golden flow. Don't need that big a bottle, but this is just titanium white. I'll show you. You would just put a little on the tip of the brush. And you would get a thinner line just by default. Don't want to overdo it, but yes, you could get because this is wet. You see, it's actually mixing on the canvas with my other stuff. Do you see how it's doing that? See that? So the question is, when would you use that? Would you want some of this, up here a little bit? You could overdo it really quick. So I would say if you're going to put white and then you're going to go back with dark, you've got to dry the white. Make sense? I'm going to do this dry. This is really a painting about when it's wet, when it's dry, when you layer. Yes? So now the trick is to say, for instance, like in my picture right here, to separate these two flowers, I've got a light green. So I'm actually going to paint that in there between these two flowers. I'm going to take a look. I want a little bit more white. Using the back of the brush here. I'm going to paint that in there. Maybe paint some of these lighter green colors up in here. Something over this one. I'm going to bury some of those little flowers in. Definitely wanted that, right? So I wanted something a little bit lighter right there on that flower. And I could even go even lighter still. Maybe I'll dry. I don't want necessarily white, but I could have something a little lighter. Do I want something a little bit lighter on my flowers here? Just barely using the tip of this brush to put, remember we dried it, to put a few little lighter bits, just a few little light touches that kind of dried. In this one, then it's not quite white. There's a little bit I can add to this flower like that. Okay, you can go back and you can do a few little details. You can go back and you can add, like for instance, I want this little flower to be lighter. And I've got some little tiny ones kind of going sideways in here like that. And they're almost white and brown. Interesting, they're just like a little brown flower. From some little weed that's kind of tucked back in here. All right, kind of like that. And then the next thing I want to do is, we're not trying to forge the picture, but I want you to understand the principle behind painting something like this. So we can take this this kind of darker paint right here. I'm going to say right here I need a bigger flower. And I'm just going to do that. I've got another big one I want right here. These are bigger than a few smaller ones here, and make sure that you don't have any water on the brush. And I'm kind of mixing these yellows together. Kind of almost like almost have an orange feel to it. And then as they go back, they get smaller. So you notice that's how they're grouped. Like there's one here, and there's one here, and they're grouped. Yes, and this one's all by itself, and a lone guy right there. Okay, then you got somebody back here, and then I think I'm going to put somebody right there. All right, so we've grouped these yellow flowers. Then we've got a few that's just somebody that these are not quite. There's like 3 here that don't count. I don't know, how's that? This doesn't probably feel good not to count.
Really?
And then let's take a few dots of.
That seems awfully mean.
It does. A few dots of white here. Back up in here and lighten these up a bit. And I'm going to say I want a few of these pale ones back here. A few more of these that are kind of buried. That's the fun part about this. Then he's got some blue ones. He's got some real pretty blue ones, as opposed to ugly blue ones, I suppose. He's got some little blue flowers up here that are doing this. Kind of like that. Just not quite a dot, but almost like a, there you go. Got a little blue flower right there. It's got a little bit of white to it. I'm going to glob on a little bit of blue and white. And there's another little blue flower over here. So just bring that with my, there you go. And let's see, I think I want a different blue. What do we got here? I've got primary cyan. Okay, it looks pretty good. And then probably ultramarine blue too, with that darker blue. I just thought this would be hard to paint. You can see it takes a little time. It's really not hard. Again, wipe the brush off. Take the darker blue, maybe mix them together. Put some blue on up here like that. Maybe I want this one a little lighter. Do you have any light blue up here? Maybe. Some little light blue flower up there. We do now, right? So, okay. I just got my, all right, so let's do some lighter blues, some lighter blue flowers in here so they show up. And they're little, okay? They vary in size. Don't get them all the same color. Something up here like that, a few little loose ones. And then down in this lower part, we've got a lot more grasses growing this way. Kind of in the, kind of want some of the olive colors here like that. And there you go. I mean, you don't have to do that much more. You might, and like some of you, if you want to, to try this, which I'd love for you to try it. If you want to sit there and see how this would work when you tried this, take your time with it. Take a moment to dry colors and follow the brush strokes. Get the actual original from off our website. Get the actual the reference photo. You want to do that, and watch the patterns of where the flowers go. You kind of pay attention to that. I know that I want to, for instance, one of the things I like about a palette is that this doesn't have anything on it. is that, you know, I can mix a little bit here. I want some kind of gray or sand here. Just another layer of color on this sand, so it's not all the same. Just come in there like that. There you go. And I think that to me makes a lot more sense. You have that sand, and maybe you have some of the darker sand down in here. Just he didn't do a lot there, but I'm going to, let's just wipe some of that off. Hang on a second. Too many hands, not enough time. There you go. That's better. Okay. Think about that. Here's some sand color up in here. Let's add, if you really look at this picture, you'll see where there is some of that sand color back kind of up in the grass. And now, I think that's pretty good. I don't know that we have to do a lot more to anything myself, but if I was going to do something else, maybe it would be to add a bit of dark around these little flowers right here. Something like that.
It goes very nicely.
So I think that's kind of pretty. I mean, you can see where we're going with this, right? This is kind of faded because it's on less expensive paper. So I can't really go off the colors off a sheet of crummy paper, okay? So I'm going off my YouTube, or rather not my YouTube, but my
iPad.
My iPad, because it has the better colors, all right? So that's what I'm basing it off of. If you're going to use a printout as a reference, make sure you're using good paper. You may have to do the reds a couple times. Don't be afraid to do that. To hit it twice. Can't say enough about using good reds. One of the things that I will always be a proponent of is using good reds. And you would really want a painting to pop. Like this is Appledore Red Light. And this is just out of Holbein. And that'll be a brighter red. Right, and I'll just take it right out of the tube in a couple places. And it'll be brighter than what I have now. Okay. So if someone says, well, I want to invest in some paint, what should I get? Invest in red and yellows. Those are really good colors to invest in because they make such a difference. I love luminous rose, but they also make like what else would I say that, this marigold. I don't think it's, I think I've got plenty of good yellows here, but let's just say that marigold's another good color to get, let me just open this tube up and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Or I will if I can get it open. That is the one thing I think the paint industry could do a lot about is their caps and how they go on and they, keep their paint. Where's my pokey thing? I have a pokey thing. Where did it go? Here. There we go. There, see? Right there, look at that. It's hard to beat, period. Take a little bit, you don't have to put it out on, you take a little bit. You don't want it everywhere too because you ruin the color surprise. But let's say I want these front ones to be brighter. So I might just do it on these. And then go in with some yellow and white right at the top. on these front ones because that'll draw the eye up there. But these back ones you want kind of pale. See, these back flowers here you don't want as bright. So you wouldn't use that. So remember, the brighter, the closer something is to you, the brighter it is. So that's just a little tip is this, you know, if you're talking about your primary reds and yellows are good colors if you want to invest in paint to get, you know, more variety of paints that you think you might like. Those are good. And absolutely probably a good thing to get. Put a few little blue ones over here like that. I still need a few little blue things up in here like this. And I think I'm done, John. What do you think? I want to show the painting that we've got going for
what we're releasing this week.
Huh?
I want to show the one we're releasing this week.
Yeah, the one we're releasing this week. And I want to take a look at this. Sometimes it takes a minute. Just stop everything for 5 minutes and look at what you painted and then look again. That really makes a difference. Okay, so let's do that for a minute. We're going to stop. I'm going to look at this. And I'm just going to look away from this and show you something else. I'm going to come back and see if there's something else I want to do to this painting. Okay, all right, so we have done
for this week.
It's really even in the Academy. We focused this week on old dead artists. And while this was not done by an old dead artist, I'm still alive. I was able to use the style that we've gotten from the old dead artist to paint this picture. So you learn from the artist in the past, and this is a Cafe in Bruges, and this is on the same. What is this? 12 by 16.
12 by 16. Yeah.
All right, you can see that, and it's we call this a box of cookie lessons. In other words, all the skills you need to paint this are have come in all the 500 lessons before. So if you like this style, in our Academy, start with some of our earlier street scenes. And if you haven't tried one yet. So anyway.
Well, and that leads to a question we get often. I'm a beginner, new to your website. Where do I start?
Start with the back to basics. Make sure even if you painted before, the way I teach acrylics is different than others. I have some unique tips, and make sure that you understand, the gist of how we would want to have this painted. The tricks you need to paint it. So I'd say there you go. Somewhere
start with the basics, turn them in for personal art coaching so Ginger can help you along the way. Now that lesson that we just showed you, that Bruges one, is 15 parts. And we strongly recommend you you don't look at anything before you start painting. Go look at 14 and 15 before you start. Because we made a lot of changes as we were going on that particular one. I don't know how to tell you this, honey, but it's upside down.
Yes. Now, one of the tricks, the last trick I'm going to show you is to take your painting, put it next to the reference, do it upside down. Is there anything you could add or take away? Is there something you want to change a little bit? For instance, I can see this. Seeing it upside down, I'm seeing a different pattern than I saw before. This is why we say stay to the end of the video so you don't miss anything. But let's just say that we've got this. We want this sort of olive green coming up here like this. And we're just going to, let's see, I want something darker like that. I want it more olive. So let's see, if we want an olive green, we're going to add red to green to gray it. Yes? We'll put a little yellow in it. There we go. There's some good olives right like that. We're just going to say, I'm going to say I want this a little bit more like that, just coming on this edge. So I'm saying, is there anything I want on the edge here? Maybe on the edge of this flower, I want a little bit of something like that, just here like that. On this side, I'm just kind of looking. I see I have my little blue flowers. I have my little white flowers. Got some yellow ones. Got my blue coming up this way, which is good, right? Got some blue coming up this way. Through these, is there any going through any of this? Because you have to make sure that, sometimes you might have a piece of grass going through a flower, right? Yeah, like that. So that you kind of, what you're doing is you're putting them in the picture. And like I say, we're leaving a little bit more room than than he had in his, but I might just see, is there anything else I want to do? And that's the trick. Maybe make these a little smaller. They don't need to be quite that big. And then I'm looking at this little clump of flowers right here. All right. And I could see where, I didn't see it upside up, but I see it upside down, where I could have a bit more color this way on top of this one. Yes. And a bit of white in there. See, now that's not a bit of white. That was just a hunk, right? But that's okay.
That's a big bit of white.
That's all right. I don't mind, because I can break that up, right? But I know that I wanted that a little bit bigger. Right? There was a dark green, some sort of a dark green base on these underneath that I missed. On that flower, you didn't see it so much on those, but you saw a little bit on these. That's what you're looking for when you turn it upside down. What are you missing? What are you seeing that you could do a little differently? Is that too wide? Maybe you want to just make that one smaller. You need to thin out a brush stroke that you got too big when you were enthusiastically painting this. Yes and yes. So there you go. So now I'm going to do it like this, and I'm not putting any birds in. Now, I think it could use some birds. I don't know why he didn't put it in his.
Because there weren't any birds in the day he was painting.
Well, apparently not, but I think birds would have been in order myself, and I know that I want it dark on the edge, kind of like underneath here on the edge. I want it sort of darker, but kind of more jaggedy. So I think I've got that pretty good. So I'm very happy with this, and this is exactly how you'd paint something like this, and create something really fun and different and free. This is a very free kind of painting. It's much as opposed to photorealism, where it's got to look exactly like something else. If you're painting a hand, you want the finger to look, kind of look like a finger. When you're painting a blade of grass, you've got a little leeway on where you put it. You've got a little bit of time on something like this to
But the key is to let it go.
Let it go, to just not be so crazed about it, right? All right. So on that thing, we're going to continue on. Next week, we're going to do another one of the Old Dead Guys. I hope you enjoyed the bio on him that we did during one of the drawing breaks. We appreciate you subscribing to our channel. We love the likes. I hope you had fun with John and I chatting in this. We're having a good time. I want you to have a good time. Academy memberships start, the orange level gives you the references for these YouTube paintings. And take a moment to go over to Ginger Cook, Acrylic Painting with gingercook.com, and check us out. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Ginger Cook, the queen of color, with a blazing brush at the speed of light, and a blank canvas, and a hearty yes and yes. The queen of color, Ginger Cook, and her sidekick, John Little, teach you to paint with acrylics.